Hello everybody and welcome to the second episode of A Girls Podcast. Here it is. Welcome back. Super excited to be on the second episode. I was really surprised by the amount of positive feedback from the first episode. If you look at it, it doesn't have as much views as like popular videos of mine, but the amount of likes on it is quite high. So I think I've got like 7 or 8 likes. I got 1 dislike, and that's quite a bit more than I would usually get. So usually on a video, even if it would get more views, like 100 views or anything, there wouldn't be as much interaction or anything like that. So it's definitely a little bit of a popular video podcast, maybe, if I'm so bold to say such things. Anyway, so obviously a new week, a new agenda, although we are going to be addressing some of the older things, of course. And some of you will probably be pretty interested to hear about my COVID vaccination experience, which I did reply to one of the comments on the previous podcast about getting the vaccine, so you might have seen that, I don't know. But yeah, I'll be showing the video from when I actually got the vaccine, like just after. I made a short little like vlog, I guess, but I didn't post it because, first of all, you know, I work, so I get tired and then I don't post things. And then the day after, they stopped that vaccine from being used in Sweden, although I think they're back to using it again. But anyway, and then I thought, man, if I post this video, people are going to get pretty confused because they probably would have heard that it had stopped. And then I'm posting this video and it would be like this big confusion. So I was like, I'll save it for the podcast. I'll put it in the podcast. So yeah, let's start with that. So I received the AstraZeneca vaccine on the Monday. Yeah, it must have been the Monday, right? And we'll watch the video. Pull that up. Was that it? I thought I had a little bit longer where I made a little joke about you can have your vaccine and eat your cake too or something like that. Glad I didn't post this video because that extra little funny bit is definitely worth it. So yeah, it might have been a little bit difficult to hear me because I was walking and I was really excited. But basically, I was at work and they've been doing the vaccinations ongoing for quite some time. I don't think that everybody gets the AstraZeneca one, but I'm pretty sure that some people get the Pfizer one. So anyway, they had 2 doses at the end of the day that they needed to get rid of because, as you probably heard, the vaccine has a short shelf life, so you can't hold on to it, especially like once you've taken it out and you've got it ready to go, it needs to be used up. So my boss gets a phone call asking if somebody in our group wants to take it, and I said yes straight away. I was super excited. I've been wanting to get the vaccine for so long, waiting for the chance, so I really jumped at it. And then unfortunately somebody was like, oh, you know, everybody should have the same chance. So they asked my other co-workers and some of them said yes. So then we sort of had like a little bit of a standoff a little bit. And my boss even suggested pulling short straws, and I'm like, wow, okay. But in the end, I did get to take it because one of my coworkers, he had an upcoming dentist appointment, like not your normal dentist appointment. He's like having basically an operation to remove several of his teeth. So he couldn't risk having side effects and then not being able to go, because he'd been waiting for this specific procedure for several months. So he wouldn't take it. And then my other coworker, she said, that she could wait. So thankfully I got to take the vaccine, and we went in, we took the vaccine. My other coworker who also took the vaccine, he's been pretty hesitant about taking the vaccine. So his wife called him and just said, like, take it. And so, we took the vaccine. And then, so I will talk about the side effects. So took the vaccine, felt fine and everything like that. And then that night I had a little bit of a fever at about midnight. So then I took 2 ibuprofen and I went off to sleep. And then when I woke up in the morning, I felt fine. I went to work. A little bit later on, like about lunchtime, I started to feel a little bit, under the weather, but nothing. It just sort of felt like maybe a cold was coming on. And obviously I was tired from the night before because I had gotten the fever at midnight. So then when I went home in the afternoon, just at the end of the day, I didn't skip work or anything. I just took 2 more ibuprofen and I felt better. So, and then after that, the subsequent days, I felt fine. My coworker, he also experienced the same thing, but then he also felt like there was something wrong with his heart, but he went to the hospital and everything, and they said that it was completely fine, and that it's possible that he just had a bit of anxiety because he was already nervous about the vaccine. So I honestly was not surprised at all that I had flu-like symptoms from the vaccine, because when I received the influenza vaccine, which I do most years, except for when I miss the memo and miss out on the vaccine, then the night after that, I usually feel like I have the flu. So I was not surprised at all. I was ready for it. I wasn't worried about it at all. That was my experience, and I'm very happy, and but I am worried that maybe I won't get to take the second dose if they continue to block the use of the vaccine. So I'm really hoping that I do get to take the second dose. So the next thing that I wanted to talk about in regards to the vaccine was that when they were asking the co-workers, like, if they want to take the vaccine, I was a little bit annoyed, because from the very first suggestion of vaccination, a whole year ago, I have always been saying yes, like, absolutely, I will take the vaccine. I don't think the government is going to put a microchip in and track us and blah blah blah. But my coworkers have been a bit hesitant about taking vaccines, so I felt as though almost that I had more of a right to get the vaccine because I had been so positive about it from the very beginning. So if I had missed out on getting this shot, I would have been really disappointed. And I don't know if that's necessarily fair that I feel that way, because obviously everybody should have, the same chance. But I thought that I would just mention it, that's how I felt. And luckily I did get to take it. So following up from the vaccination taking, I guess I should talk about, what I want to talk about is the whole blood clot situation. So some people have had blood clots, although it hasn't necessarily been linked to the AstraZeneca vaccine. And people talk about that a lot as like a really scary thing, because obviously blood clots are a scary thing. But in terms of like medication that females have to take. There's a lot of birth control that women have to take that can increase the risk of blood clots. So between 0.3% to 1% risk of blood clots when taking birth control over 10 years. And not only that, but just being pregnant can increase the likelihood of having a blood clot even after pregnancy. So the whole blood clot situation thing, I kind of feel like that's a kind of a privilege for men to be worried about, because if you're a female, the likelihood that you're going to bear a child and have children is quite high, which means that your risk of blood clots is increased anyway. So, it's like, oh, that's cool that you are worried about potential blood clots in a vaccine when so many thousands of people are dying in Sweden. But yeah, so that was my interpretation of the whole blood clot situation. So that didn't put any sort of doubt in my mind about taking the vaccine. Yeah. But the coworker that I had who also got this shot that I got, he might not take the second shot. He's really worried about it right now. And also I do have another coworker who's not currently working because he's got a shoulder situation. He's like QAnon Trump supporter, and he is very anti-vaccination, and so I think he's also got it into my coworker's head a little bit. So we'll see what happens with that. But it brings up another question of, if you take the AstraZeneca vaccine, can you then go on to take like the Pfizer vaccine? And what happens then? Like, do you get 2 shots of the Pfizer one, or like what happens there? I don't know, because that seems to be what my coworker would like to do. So it's like a complicated, interesting situation. So we'll see how that unfolds. And that's gonna be all that I talk about vaccines at the moment. Whew. So much to say, such a hot button topic at the moment, but it's kind of exciting, I guess. I mean, to have so many different vaccines from different fabricators it's kind of interesting, right? Like, you don't usually get the option of like, what vaccine do you want to take, so that whole aspect is pretty interesting. Okay, so now we have a David Dobrik update, really. So the Times, I think it was the New York Times, they published an article about David Dobrik's vlog squad, and this guy in the vlog squad called Dom, who has possibly committed assault, SA, on a young lady who I think she was 20 years old at the time. And it was a whole situation that was filmed, put into a vlog, uploaded on the internet, and now this has come to light because the young lady, I think she was contacted by the New York Times. I don't think that she went to them. And so her story has been published. She's remained anonymous, which I think is probably safer for her, because so many people have been talking about, like, Seth and other people who have talked about the vlog squad. They've said that they are doing this just for clout, and so it kind of seems almost like the only way to not have that sort of label put on you is to remain anonymous. So anyway, the situation is very serious because it involves, I think, multiple crimes in one video, because first of all you have the actual assault, and then you have the filming of the act, or filming of people looking in on the act. And then you have the buying of alcohol for minors. So there's like 3 different sort of illegal activities going on. And this has really ramped up the discussion around the Vlog Squad, because as I talked about in the other video or the previous podcast, there wasn't as much discussion around David Dobrik and the Vlog Squad's behavior. It was almost as though there was like a hush-hush policy from other big YouTubers. But now this article has been published and there's more people talking about it, and now David Dobrik has released an apology video, which is very interesting because in the very beginning he's had a policy of not commenting on any so-called drama, although I think it's very demeaning to call such things drama because it's issues of legality, right? And he basically the apology was very lacking. So first of all, he put it up on a 3rd channel that he has under his name, which is not very subscribed to or anything. So from the very start, it's made obvious that he's trying to do this on the down low. And then secondly, when he talks in the video about the situations that he's supposedly apologizing for, he is very vague about it. So he talks about, for example, Seth and the assault against Seth as the Seth situation, without actually explaining what that situation was. So people who are just watching the video, they won't really know what the apology is about. And then he also, when he talks about being sorry for the things he does, he says that he will change his ways, and that in fact he's already changed his ways, that he's changed who he hangs out with and the things that he does in his videos. But my impression from the apology was that he lacks a deep understanding of what it actually is, what is right and wrong in the world. It seems to me like he understands that these very specific situations were possibly wrong, but it doesn't really seem as though he understands the wider scope of what is right and what is wrong in the world. And if he lacks that understanding, then that means that these sorts of situations will keep on happening again. And the thing is that if you are somebody who doesn't understand the wider situation around consent and the position of power that you're in, and how you have to really check yourself to make sure that you aren't in a way forcing people into these situations, the only way that you can stop yourself from getting into these situations again is to educate yourself. Like, there are specific courses for people who are bosses and in positions of power. There are specific courses that can teach you about issues of consent and how to treat people. So unless he's going on these courses and getting taught this information that he seems to lack, then I don't really think that he should continue to make videos. Like, I think that he really has to seek out education before he can really even be able to apologize. So that would be my recommendation, and I don't really think that people should continue to support him before he really achieves the knowledge that he needs to achieve in order to be in the position of power that he is. Oh, I just wanted to make a quick mention of the previous story around the royal situation. So Duncan commented about that people of colour can catch subtle racist undertones in conversations that people who haven't grown up in a community that is subjugated, that they can't pick up on those sorts of things. And I thought that was a really interesting point, because I have noticed myself, like when people talk about the Treaty of Waitangi, they don't understand how things can be unfair. Like, they don't see the unfairness in things because they've never experienced it themselves. So when Megan talks about how she feels, there isn't any way that we as people of privilege can, or people who haven't grown up as she has, there's no way that we can say that what she is feeling and what she is experiencing is wrong, because we simply don't know that. And when she talks about these things, she's talking about her truth. So there isn't any way to really say that that's wrong, because we simply don't know. And I thought that was a really good point that Duncan brought up. So thanks for that, Duncan. Okay, so I probably should have talked about this before I talked about the Megan thing. But anyway, so we're jumping back into the David Dobrik situation, because there was something really... I watched the H3 podcast that talked about the Seth SA situation with what's his name? What's the old guy's name? I can't remember. That middle-aged guy that's always in the vlogs. I can't remember at all. But anyway, so they did H3, Ethan and Ela, they did an interview with Seth, and they were struggling to sort of put into terms why it was difficult for Seth to talk about the assault that was committed against him, because they wanted to say that it was more difficult for men to speak up about assault, but they also didn't want to say it because they didn't want to say that it was easy for women to talk about it, because obviously it's not easy for women to talk about it. And I was thinking about this a lot afterwards, because I recognized that sort of conundrum of, like, there is something about it that is different for men and women, and I was trying to think about what it is that is and how we can express it, because there is an obvious difference that people know, but they can't put it into words without saying that it's easier for men than it is for women. And I thought about this a lot, and what I think it is that, so when it comes to making charges with the police, like going to the police, it's, equally difficult for men and women, simply because the statistics say that the perpetrator isn't going to go to jail. I think it's really low percentage that the perpetrator is going to go to jail. And the whole process of making allegations to the police is really long and arduous and traumatizing. So a lot of people choose not to go to the police and to simply talk to friends and family and seek counseling for it. So that's both difficult for men and women. Secondly, if you go public, like if you talk about it on social media or anything like that, it's both difficult for men and women. They'll be accused of looking for clout, looking for fame, lying, just being untruthful, people digging through their past to try and say, well, you're not a good person, so why should we believe you, and things like that. So that situation is both difficult for men and women. But where I think that the situation differs and where it does become more difficult for men is when they are talking to people that are close or are supposedly in their close circle about the assault. Because if you're a female and you've been through an assault situation, it's quite common that you've already heard about your friend being assaulted. So then it makes it a lot easier for you to talk about it with your friends, because that conversation is already open. It's already been started in a way, like from a very young age. You know, just entering high school, you already know somebody who's been assaulted, and you've probably already talked in your friend group about that situation. So for women, it's already a conversation that's open, right? But I think that for men, that conversation isn't necessarily open from the very beginning. And I think that it's not even open within your family. Like, it's not a given that you can talk about this thing with your family. And I have specific examples. So my brother, he had a friend in high school who he was in some way victimized by one of the teachers at the high school, and he was just one of several boys, so it wasn't just him who were saying these things. And when he went to his parents, they said that he was lying, and they didn't believe him at all. And I mean, like, when my brother told the family that his friend had been through this and that the family didn't believe him, we were all really shocked, because, like, why would your son come to you and lie about that? He's got nothing to gain. Like, why wouldn't you believe your son? And what about all these other boys? Like, do you just think it's your son that's lying, or do you think that all these boys are lying? It was shocking that they wouldn't believe him. So, I mean, now obviously this type of reaction can happen to females as well, but I think it's less likely, because I know friends that have told their parents about their assault, and their parents have believed them and have supported them. So I don't think that it's isolated that this guy wasn't believed. I think that there are a lot of guys who wouldn't be believed by their family or their friends. And Seth even talked about that. He said that his family, you know, sort of said, like, you know, that's what friends do, it's just a prank, like, basically guys will be guys and you're one of the guys, so just accept it. But, like, if a guy did that to a female, your family wouldn't say, like, oh, that's your friend, just accept that, you know. Sure, there might be other people who say guys will be guys, you put yourself in that situation, just accept it. But your family and your very close friends, I don't think that they would say that. I think that there's less of a chance for a female to get that reaction. Yeah, so that's where I think the difference is. And so in a way it is harder for men, because even their very close friends and family, they can't be sure that they will be received with open and listening ears and arms. And that's probably what you need the most. Like, sure, you can be ridiculed in public, but you need somebody to talk to, and it should be your friends and it should be your family that you can talk to. So I really feel for males in that situation, that they won't even necessarily be able to rely on their friends and family. That would just be so difficult. Yeah. And I think that it's fine to say that. I think it's good even to acknowledge that there is a potential discrepancy between what males can talk about with their friends and what they can't. Yeah. What? I think... Yeah, okay. So this has already gone on really long. So I should probably wrap it up. I was going to talk about this news story from New Zealand where a Kiwi teenager was deported from Australia. But we might save that for another time. I might select a few stories from Australia to do a whole episode where I just dump on them. But we'll see. Anyway, Australia bad, New Zealand good. No, I can't say that. Yeah. Okay, so let me know what your thoughts are in the comments down below. We only really talked about 2 topics, didn't we? The vaccine and assault. That's not very fun. But yeah, I hope everybody enjoyed the episode anyway. And I will see you guys on the 3rd episode. Chugging along, having a good time. It's actually quite fun making these videos, podcast. And hopefully I will keep on keeping on. As long as I keep getting support from you guys, and there's no reason for me to stop. Yeah. Alright, have a good one. Hey door.